give me a brief history of 16 volt and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it's been a long and sometimes painful journey. We signed our first deal in 1992, so we've been around for a long time. We've had a couple points during our quote unquote career where we could have gone, commercial, had that commercial success, but for some reason, luck has always just like pushed us back down. We were on Mercury Polygram in the late '90s, and then we were on Capitol Records in the early 2000s. So we've kind of been close to commercial success, but we always end up kind of coming back to our underground status quickly. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know about the band, which we feel is like it's a bummer because we've never really gotten our shot. And that's kind of always what we wanted to get, was just give us a shot, and if we don't come through, then great. Then we've had our shot, and that's good, But
Yeah.
but at the same time, I mean, we're totally happy with what we have. We don't take anything for granted, being a small band. Our kind of philosophy in the band is like we'd rather play for 10 people who like know us and love us than 10,000 who are like waiting for their hot dog at the food line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
You've had a really tumultuous career in music. I mean, you basically started out in the music business. Your dad was a record exec, correct?
well, that's actually kind of a weird piece of information. That's up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And what happened was there's this company, All Music Guide or whatever. They have it in my bio, and I've been trying to get them to change it for literally a decade because it's not actually true.
What brought you back to 16 volt with Full Black Habit?
Well, so what happened was, Flip Disc was part of Mercury Polygram, and at the time, what was happening was that we were actually getting pulled up to Mercury Polygram proper, and we weren't even going to be on Flip Disc. We were going to be on Mercury Polygram, and so we felt like, once again, like you had said, okay, finally, we're going to get our shot, and that's when Seagram's bought Mercury Polygram. And then so everybody at Mercury got laid off or fired or left or whatever. So then we were left without a label. And when that happened, that's when Flip Disc lost their investors, because they were like, part of their deal with their investors was, and this is way too granular, but part of their deal with their investors was that that if they lost major label distribution, that they wouldn't have an investor. They wouldn't have any money invested in the label. So that's why they ended up folding. So that's the whole story with Flip Disc. And then, so what happened after that was we spent probably, oh God, it must have been like 8 months trying to get somebody to buy the record. Because what happened was a lot of the bands on Mercury got dropped.
Right.
So they were able to go and do something somewhere else. We didn't get dropped. We got basically moved over to Island Records, catalog item. So our record was due to come out, and we had no promotion, no tour support, no radio, nothing. So we spent over a year working on Super Cool Nothing with like some amazing people.
Yeah.
Bill Kennedy, Chris Brenna's on the record. I mean, we agree it's the record is a great record.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that from a place from my ego or anything. It's just I compare it to other records at the time, and it is a fucking awesome record.
It is.
So, and I don't take full credit for that. I mean, I take that's a lot of that has to do with Bill Kennedy and Joe Bishara and all that stuff. So. We fought to try to get the record picked up by another label, and at the time I was living in LA, and we were down there, and we tried to get other labels to pick up the record for months and months and months. But Mercury and Flip Disc wanted $50,000 for the record, which by major label standards is nothing.
Right.
But what was happening was all these guys in all these other labels were like, well, it's on Mercury, and now it's on Island, so I mean the record's it's kind of already. We're like, and we just were like, no, it hasn't. It's not even coming out. At this point, it came out, but we're like. The record has no promo, no radio, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Pick it up, then we can go do our stuff and try and get it out. And all these labels were just kind of like giving us the old thing, which is like, well, let's see how things go. Let's see how the record sells. And then, you guys just keep playing around, keep doing shows and that kind of stuff. And we were just like, ugh. So we fought this for like 8 months. We had a great attorney. It's the same guy who's like, doing all these big bands in LA and stuff. And it just wasn't coming together, and we were doing like showcase shows, once a week for like 2 label execs. We'd go at 5:00 p.m. to the Viper Room in LA, have to put on a full-on show for like 2 guys,
right?
To try to show them that, like, okay, we can do this. And it was like, by that time, we're talking like 1988, 98, 1999. We had already been doing this for like years, and we're like, why do we have to prove ourselves to these guys at this point? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
doing this for so long. And it just started to kind of eat away at my soul.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, what am I doing this for? Like, the reason I wanted to do this in the first place was because, you know, I wanted to be on wax tracks. My goals when I started, I wanted to be on wax tracks. That was like my huge goal.
Me too.
And be in that sort of crew, you know, like, that was my favorite music in the world.
Oh, man, yeah.
You know, and it defined me as a person.
Yeah.
So,
I still wear my Wax Tracks T-shirts.
Oh, I wish I still had mine, you know. So, I mean, that was really my goal, was to do that and to go. And my other goal was, like, I want to go on tour in a bus someday.
Yeah.
You know, those were my goals. And by that time, it was like, well, you know, we've done everything that we set out to do, like, from the beginning. And why are we trying to do this now? What's our point? And I think, in retrospect, us being in LA, like, a lot of our friends were starting to get great deals. And, you know, we were friends with Orgy when they got their deal. And friends with, well, I wouldn't say friends, but we knew Papa Roach, you know, before they got their deal. So we're seeing all these bands around us with, frankly, records that we thought weren't as good as what we had.
Yeah.
And we're seeing all these guys get signed, get their houses, get their cars, you know, and really we just wanted to, like, make a living and be able to focus on doing music, and it just became really, really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And our career drive sort of replaced our artistic drive.
Right.
And I think that, like, in retrospect, that just really ate away at us. So, in 98, I think it was close to 99, I was just like, you know what, I need a break. I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do any more of these showcase shows. It's just killing me. I'm totally lost. I feel like, you know, I'm off the rails. I don't understand why I'm even doing any of this now. I have no inspiration for this.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't get our record bought. I was just like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't want to do it.
Right.
And then, so I just walked away from it. And then, at that time, Craig Tyler, who was our guitar player, he went and joined Crazy Town. So we were, at the same time all this was going on, we were watching Craig, you know, blow up. He's traveling over to, like, you know, like MTV's, you know, like MTV in the Bahamas and all this stuff, you know. And he comes home from Ozfest and buys a Mercedes, you know, and we're all just like, fuck, you know, what is going on? And, you know, I mean, I mean, it's pretty vocal from the beginning. I'm not a big Crazy Town fan. I mean, I like him as people and stuff, and I think they're really talented, but, like, I just wasn't really a fan of the whole thing. And I'm just like, how is this possible? Like, this is driving us crazy, you know?
Right.
Not that we thought we were better than anybody else. It's not that. It's just that we felt like we at least deserved a shot, you know, and that was it. Like, just give us a shot. So anyways, that's a long version of why I just couldn't do it anymore. I just had to stop. So what happened was I stopped, and then right after, you know, a couple of years later, I think it was like around 2000, we got a call out of the blue from Sony to help them out with the video game Primal.
Right.
And so that was just too cool of a thing to pass up on. I think it was like 2000 when we first got the call, somewhere around then.
Yep.
So what ended up happening was we worked the deal. To make a long story short, we worked out our deal with Sony to be able to buy back our record and also fund us on a tour.
Right.
And around that same time, we got asked to do the KMFDM tour.
Yep.
We were like, well, I guess we can do this again, you know?
Yeah.
So we did this reunion show in LA, and, like, a ton of people came to it. So what had happened between, like, the time we sort of had stopped and, like, 2000 was that record just sort of took off in the underground on its own. And a lot of people in LA just kind of, you know, it sort of just made its way through everybody. And so, you know, we did this reunion show at the Viper Room, and it was, like, sold out, you know, kind of deal. We were just like, okay, we could totally do this again, you know? So we said yes to the KMFDM tour. We said yes to Sony. So we ended up doing this video game, and part of the deal with the video game was to include, like, our record on it, basically, Super Cool Nothing. So we kind of felt like, okay, finally we can get this record out. Granted, it's in a very strange way, you know, in a video game. But at least the music that we all worked so hard on, at least it'll be able to get out there and kind of, you know, be heard.
Right.
So we did that, and then when we got back from the KMFDM tour, we signed with Capitol Records, and then we spent like a year with Capitol working on, you know, demos and basically just dealing with what is the ugly side of the major label industry at that point, which was like they didn't want to they loved us because of what we were,
right,
but they didn't trust us enough to stay who we were. They wanted to change us into something that was a proven product, right?
Right.
So they're, you know, over working with them for like 6 months, we got basically an ultimatum, which was again, to make a long story short, you either become what we want you to be,